Hello and welcome to Drunk on Tea. This week I'm taking a look at the new Introductory Starter Set for Warhammer 40K. Any long-time followers of the channel will know I thought the 10th edition Introductory Set was a great way to get into painting and playing 40k for new players. Will this new set be as good as the previous set, or is this a set that misses the mark? And picking up one of the other sets would be a better option for people who are new to the hobby. So join me as I open up this set and take a look at the content and check out the new Introductory Starter Set for Warhammer 40,000. First of all, let's have a look at the back of the box and see what's inside. There are 6 Space Marines in here, 5 intercessors and a lieutenant, as well as 10 orcs, a boss knob and 9 boys, which is enough models to learn how to play the game. There's also some cardboard terrain, which is always nice to include, a paper playmat, as well as a ruler and dice. The set also comes with 6 paints and a starter brush, so it does contain everything you need to get started in the hobby. The previous introductory set only came with 5 paints and didn't include any scenery, although it did come with clippers, but they aren't required for this set, in theory. I thought the paint selection in the previous set was actually better, although there were less paints, but I'll get onto my thoughts about the paints a little bit later on. Now let me open the box up and see what's inside. After fighting to get the tab open, it turns out opening boxes on camera is harder than it looks. Everything comes inside this tray inside the box. I've also found that after building the models, everything also fits back into this tray as well, which is good for storage. You can see the sprues sitting there on top, as they do in all Warhammer boxes. These come in coloured plastic, with green for the orcs and blue for the Space Marines, so your first games can be done with unpainted models. One part of my sprue has broken off here. This is a risk with these no-clip sprues they've included. The part is fine, but it is loose in the box, so hopefully it doesn't end up getting lost. The orcs come on 2 sprues, all the parts are numbered, and they are push-fit models, so these will be pretty simple to put together for beginners. They all have scenic bases as well, so I'm going to guess these designs will be locked away inside this box, although there are more than enough Orc Boy models out there already, and the main set comes with loads of orcs. The Space Marines come on these blue sprues, and there are 2 of them again. I can see where the part I have loose broke away from. It should have been here on the bottom left of the sprue, so I'll have to remember that when it comes to building these later on. Much like the orcs, these are monopose models with scenic bases, and the models are push fit. You can see one side of the sprue is rounded. This means the parts don't need to be removed with snippers. They can be twisted off the sprues, which seems a little strange to me. Yes, it makes it easier for beginners, but no other sprues are like this, and it's recommended to always use clippers to avoid damaging the part. So why GW is trying to teach new players bad habits is beyond me, especially when the previous set came with a set of snippers. The connection points to the plastic sprues are quite small, so they will break away easily, but this just seems like it's going to leave bits of plastic left, or if the joint doesn't break, cause stress to the model and damage or break the plastic. Now it's time to look at the rest of the set and make sure I keep this part here safe and I don't lose it anywhere. This is the starter brush that comes with the set. These are given out in most paint sets. They are okay. The tip is too big for detail work and too small for base coating large areas, but it is enough to get started. If you are picking up this set to get into the hobby, I would recommend getting a set of cheap synthetic brushes online as well. You'll always want a selection of brushes, and then when this one dies, you're not without a paintbrush, but it will do for the first few minis if needed. There is also this little box of dice. It's nice that they've come in a box, so there aren't dice rolling around everywhere inside the box, because otherwise they probably would have ended up getting everywhere when you opened up the set. GW has been giving out these dice for years. They are just white with black dots. They do the job. I have hundreds of them. They seem to never roll a 6 when you need it, but that is also the case for most dice. Next up we have the paints. These 6 are supposed to be all you need to paint both the Space Marines and the Orcs to a basic tabletop standard. The 5 in the previous set could do that. These 6 I have different views on, but I am going to circle back to that. These are regular pots of the Warhammer paint, These are actually the first paints I've got since the rebrand away from Citadel, but they are the same paints, just with Warhammer on them instead of the old Citadel colour. Now I'm going to lift out this packet from the bottom of the box, and hiding underneath is the ruler. These clear plastic rulers are fine to start with. It's a bit cheeky they only give you one. It used to be one for each player in starter sets. Now the box is empty, I'm going to move it away so I can take a look at what's inside this packet. First I need to struggle to open it up. This little sticker is somehow made with the strongest glue ever known to man. But once it's opened, these are the mat, terrain and booklet. The mat is double-sided glossy paper. One side is just a plain desert landscape. The printing is really good and the details of the image are really clear. Remember, this is just a paper playmat, so it won't last forever, it will soon get scuffed and torn, but it is nice to get started and play the first few games on. It's a fair size as well. It's not a full 6x4 foot, but it's large enough to play some reasonable sized games, using more models than what's included here, so for getting started, this is pretty useful. The other side has the spots for the objectives already marked on it. The way objectives are used has changed for this edition, and the footprint for the terrain has become important, so it's nice to have this marked out rather than needing to get yet more kit and buy the markers that GW sells separately. That being said, I prefer the clean side without the objective footprints, so I would use that side personally, but it's nice for people to have the choice. And now we have the cardboard terrain that comes with this set. There are 3 pages of this, 2 of them being the same, so this should give a fair amount of line of sight blocking cover for playing your games. I don't mind cardboard terrain. I've done videos before about the battle systems terrain that I like, but this does seem very flimsy. I would say it's more like paper terrain than cardboard. It will do for a few games, but I can imagine this getting beaten up and dog-eared pretty quickly because it's so thin. I can think of a few ways to maybe make this a bit stronger and survive a bit more abuse. If you'd like to see me make a video on using this terrain as a base for a project, let me know in the comments below. And finally, we have the booklet that comes with the set. It feels well made with a nice glossy cover. It's not just a copy of the core rules slapped in the box to make it a starter set. It looks like this will cover how to build and paint models, as well as some lore and how to play the game. So for someone just getting into 40k, this should cover the basics. It has the usual introduction into the world of 40k and how to remove the models from their sprues. I don't trust twisting the models off, but if it helps people play their first games and get into the hobby, then it's probably a good thing, but I still think a set of snippers in here would have been better. It then gives instructions on how to build the models. Unlike the sprues in the Armageddon launch set, the numbers on these sprues do appear to be in some form of order, and there is more space on the sprue, so these instructions shouldn't be too difficult to follow and build the miniatures. Next is the how to paint section. It starts off talking about the tools you'll need to paint your miniatures and basic techniques. This is all good for someone who's never painted before, although obviously it's just the basics. It then moves on to undercoating. I've undercoated with paint before. It doesn't always need to be a rattle can, but the first method they use here is using the paint straight from the pot. That just seems like a recipe for disaster, as people clog up all the details on their models before they've even begun. The second method is the only one it should have mentioned, thinning the paint and using several layers to build up a solid layer all over the model, so the rest of the paint has something to stick to. It's even recommending to use black for this, which is good because it's a forgiving undercoat for beginners, as missed spots will just look like shadow. After this, it gives a basic guide to painting the models in the set using the colours provided. This is a very basic paint scheme and misses out a lot of the details on the models, mostly because there isn't a colour to paint those areas with. But for a beginner, it talks through the basics and has enough pictures so you can follow along. Perhaps I should use these guides to paint the models and then show how to take the models to a higher standard with just a couple more paints and a bit of extra work. If that's something you'd like to see, please let me know below. After the painting guides, there's a brief lore section. These pages cover the basic lore for the Space Marines and Orks. It's far from in-depth, but it should be enough to understand the models you're playing with and pique someone's interest into learning more about the faction that they're interested in. Now are the missions. There are 3 missions to teach the basics of the game. They walk you through how things like moving, combat and shooting work. This isn't a rulebook, so to play the game properly you would need to buy that separately. But for some intro games and a bit of fun, especially if playing with children, these look like they would be a good fun way to learn the game. Final one uses all of the models, so you could replay that several times for a sort of Warhammer 40K light experience. And that's the contents of the Warhammer 40K Introductory Starter Set, but I want to cycle back to those paints quickly and talk about the paint selection. These are the paints that are included: silver, blue, black, green, brown and gold. I know the paint guide shows how to use these to paint the models included, but it really isn't the best paint selection. You can paint some of the Marines with them, although the Sergeant will have the wrong colour helmet because Ultramarine Sergeants wear red helmets, but that aside, there isn't a white. Because of the black, it's possible to darken colours down to make shade colours, but without a white, there's no way to highlight anything. When the previous set came out, I showed how to paint the Space Marines and Tyrannid models that came with it, using just the 5 colours included. That's what started the 5 paint challenge series on this channel, and they will be back at some point, but this paint selection seems very basic. The Orks are just going to be green skin with black clothes, brown leather, and their weapons painted black with silver parts. They are going to look very flat. These are fine for your first few models, but a lot of people want to also push themselves, and the inclusion of a white paint would have made this possible. If you're thinking about picking up this set for painting more than playing, I would probably recommend getting one of the paint sets instead, or getting one alongside this set. This Ork one comes with a white and Zandri dust instead of the blue and gold. There's also a Space Marine one that replaces the green with the white. They are mostly the same paints as the introductory set, but the inclusion of the white really does allow for a lot more painting options. Or you can just buy a pot of white to go with the set as well. Trust me, you'll use it as well as the extra brushes I said about earlier. But these paint sets allow for a lot more creativity with painting. If you would like, I could start off a new series of the 5 paint challenge by using the Ork set and seeing what I can do. But those are my thoughts on the introductory starter set. It's not quite as good as the previous one, but it's still a good entry point for new players. The cardboard terrain and playmat probably won't last too long, but they will get someone playing their first few games and get them into the hobby. The paint selection just isn't as useful as before, but it's good enough, especially if you pick up a white or a paint set to go alongside it. Overall, if you want to get into the hobby, this is a cheaper entry point box to try out all aspects of the hobby. If you enjoy it, then the larger starter sets are a good follow-up purchase if you want. This is also a good gift for someone who is thinking about getting into the hobby, or someone who just needs some more paints and models. But what do you think? Are you thinking about picking up this set? Please let me know in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to join me as I continue to paint the Armageddon launch box in a retro 90s style. And happy painting!